So Donald Trump is continuing to spiral, and it's truly glorious to watch. After Bob Woodward's book came out, the campaign was in complete chaos. Now Trump is begging the judge to not release any more evidence against him, and he's actually said out loud that if Kamala Harris wins, that it's not going to be so easy for him. He realizes what's headed his way, and we're all sitting over here just rooting for it. We're all sitting over here wanting to see him held accountable. And another thing that we're absolutely loving seeing is the energy right now that is around Kamala Harris. And I believe the reason that energy is there, folks, plain and simple, is because we're so exhausted from the Donald Trump act. We're so exhausted from his rhetoric, his cruel and hateful rhetoric that just never pumps the brakes and never stops. It just continues to go downhill like a snowball headed for hell, and his people stands back and cheers for it. And it's wore the rest of us down. So whenever we see something like these clips I'm going to show you, we get excited when we see this level of energy. And I was so excited to see Barack Obama out campaigning for Kamala Harris. And I'm starting to feel 2008 energy again, which we've had that for a while now. And it's good to have that back, to have that energy back underneath us. It was great hearing Obama talk, and this was one of my favorite moments. Actually, I could play this clip for you and call it a day, because this was one of my favorite moments when he flexed. Obama don't hardly flex that much. He's not one to brag or boast, but it's about damn time that he went ahead and said what he says in this clip. Take a look.
And the reason some people think, wow, I don't know, I remember that economy when he first came in being pretty good. Yeah, it was pretty good, because it was my economy. We had 75 straight months of job growth that I handed over to him. It wasn't something he did. I had spent 8 years cleaning up the mess that the Republicans had left me the last time. So just in case everybody has a hazy memory, he didn't do nothing except those big tax cuts.
Now, I'm sure MAGA's heads were about to explode when they heard him say that, but it's just the truth. That was Obama's economy that Donald Trump rode on. And then we got a glimpse of what Donald Trump was like as president once he had 4 years, and once he bungled COVID, he left Joe Biden a mess. And so I know they get upset to hear that, but I'm glad that Obama finally just owned it and said, hey, that was mine. Stop taking credit for that. And I love here, too, how that he points out that Donald Trump is not about fixing the problems. He's just about coming up with catchphrases. Take a look.
But when I hear Donald Trump talking, I've got one question. As I recall, Donald Trump was president for 4 years. And if rounding up and deporting millions of desperate people and building the beautiful wall, and didn't matter whether some of those folks you rounded up were women and children. If that's the answer to everything, well, why didn't you solve the problem? Why were the number of immigrants basically the same when you left office as when you took office? I'll tell you why. Because he didn't have a real plan. He had talking points. He had concepts of a plan. And the plan was mean and ugly. And it was designed to enhance his politics and make people angry, not to solve the problem.
One of MAGA's favorite talking points is, well, she's been in there for 4 years, man. Why ain't she done something? I think we always need to flip that script on them. First of all, the vice president's not the one that creates the policy. And second of all, your guy was president for 4 years. Why didn't he get it done when he had the chance? And why is he still out there just trying to sell crappy merch? Take a look.
Attempts to sell you stuff. Who does that? Selling you gold sneakers and a $100,000 watch and most recently a Trump Bible. He wants you to buy the Word of God, Donald Trump edition. Got his name right there next to Matthew and Luke. I mean, you could not make this stuff up. If you saw it on Saturday Night Live, you'd say, well, no, that's going too far. No, he's doing that.
You know, it really is a first in this country. I don't ever remember seeing a president sell his own merch. I really don't. I mean, I've seen like those commemorative plates they'll make or something like that for a presidency, but it's not the person out there pushing it themselves. Donald Trump is the first one that has tried to sell every item with his name on it, which just goes to show you that that's all he's about. He has no ideas or solutions. It's just all about how can he grift and how can he make a dollar off gullible people. And gullible people who believes that he has their best interest at heart. But Obama makes a great point here. If he wouldn't stand up or if he wouldn't care about his own vice president, why would he care about you? Take a look.
If Donald Trump does not care that a mob might attack his own vice president, do you think he cares about you? Pennsylvania, we do not need 4 more years of that. We don't need 4 more years of arrogance and bumbling and bluster and division. America's ready to turn the page. We are ready for a better story, one that helps us work together instead of turning against each other. Pennsylvania, we're ready for a President Kamala Harris.
But yet there are still people in my part of the world who thinks that Donald Trump has their back. And I always point out to them that anyone who has ever stepped out of line with Trump or criticized him in the slightest is immediately labeled a RINO and is immediately kicked to the curb, and he sicks the entire crew on them. And he did so to his own vice president because his own vice president wouldn't go against the grain and refused to certify the election. Mike Pence stood with the Constitution, which is something that MAGA loves to thump on. Mike Pence stood with the Constitution and did what he was called to do, and Trump sent a lynch mob after him. So if he didn't care about Mike Pence, he sure as hell ain't going to care about some redneck from southeast Kentucky. I'm sorry. It's just there's no way that he would ever care about that. But in these next couple of clips, I love that Obama gets to poke a little fun at Trump. I think Trump deserves to be mocked. I think he deserves to be ridiculed. I think he deserves to be laughed at because he is a laughing stock, and I really enjoyed these clips right here.
Tim is a veteran. He is a teacher. He's a coach. He's a hunter. He's been a great governor working with Democrats and Republicans to get stuff done. He can also take a vintage truck apart and put it back together again. You think Donald Trump can do that? For that matter, do you think Donald Trump has ever changed a tire in his life? I'm just trying to picture it.
How many times here on the channel have I said to you guys, this guy has never walked down a dirt road in his life, doesn't have any calluses on his hands, never had sweat on his brow, never worked an honest day in his life, wouldn't wipe his nose with your Sunday best. I've been saying that for years. And it's always good when someone on the level of a Barack Obama brings it, you know, and points it out. And in this last clip, I saved the funniest one for last. And I think for those of you that have saw Obama's speech, you know where this is going. But he asks us the question if Donald Trump ever changed a diaper. Take a look.
Or diapers. I remember buying diapers. I remember the first time I went in the store, right after Malia was born. I was like, what? That's how much diapers cost? I remember changing diapers. You think Donald Trump ever changed a diaper? Yeah. I almost said that, but I decided I shouldn't say it.
The minute he said diaper, my mind went there, and that was priceless. I'm so glad to see Obama out there with the energy again and bringing it, and I'm glad to see him mocking and laughing at Donald Trump because he deserves it. You know, I don't feel any sympathy when it comes to Donald Trump. I save my sympathy for people that truly deserve it. I'm not going to sympathize with a billionaire who had everything handed to him on a silver platter and who went out there and made a complete and total mockery out of our country and everything it stood for. He went out there and just did his best WWE villain impression and just conned and grifted people every step of the way. And the damage he's done is something we're going to be picking up the pieces of for years to come. So if he gets mocked and becomes a joke and a punchline, that's the very least that should happen. You know, I still want to see him held accountable. I'd love to see him spend the rest of his life in prison myself. People ask me all the time, do I think I'll see that? No, I'm not trying to be a pessimist here, but no, I don't really think that. Guys like him always tend to slip out and avoid accountability because of the place they were born. But I always go back to this, to the ones that, get so upset at the things I say about him. If you're upset at the things I've said about Donald Trump, just realize you could never get away with his act in your world. It would never work at your place of business. It would never work. It would never work for you at your job. You would never be able to handle yourself or carry yourself like him. So what I would say to the Trump supporters at this point in the game is, you guys have been living vicariously through this guy for so long, but it's time to wake up and realize that that's just it. You're living through him. You're living in a fantasy world. It's not real. The world that you're in, the battles you're fighting, none of those things are real, and he's not real. He's as phony as they come. But I'm so glad to see Obama out there with that 2008 energy, and we just got to keep bringing that till we get Kamala and Tim over the finish line. So, folks, thank you so much for watching this video. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button and help us get to 500,000, and you guys have a great day.